Jack Leiter is getting his third shot at starting in the bigs as we're speaking. But are Matt and I buying back in? We're talking Leiter and much more on today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, click the little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. The link to our Subtext is in the bio to wherever you're listening and available on all of our social media platforms. So check us out. It's so much more than we could offer in this 30-minute episode. And trust me, it's worth your while, especially this time of year. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win and keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions may apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. And guys, we got something that's super fun. You want to get involved in it. Dive on into the ultimate fantasy baseball experience with our exclusive Locked On Fantasy Baseball hat giveaway. Score big by simply sharing any of our X or Instagram posts. Each share earns you an entry into the draw. The more you share, the greater your chances are of winning. Don't miss out on this great experience. The drawing will be held on June 14th, which is actually my birthday. Get in the game now for that chance to win the exclusive hat. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see Matt is rocking the hat right now. It is such an awesome hat. You guys want to get involved in that. And, not to bury the lead, we got some great names for you today. We kind of switched up the episodes because of Mother's Day. So we're rocking with waiver wire ads today. Matt, don't bury the lead any longer. Guys are here, tired of hearing me talk. Let's talk some baseball. Who do we got first up today?
All right, we got Jack Leiter, or Leiter. I say Leiter. I don't know why it's Leiter. I'm going to put the lighter fluid on. But yeah, Leiter has been horrible in his first couple of outings. Only it was able to get about like 7 innings pitched, and stat line does not look good. Let's put it that way. He's had 7 innings pitched. He has a 12.91 ERA with a grand total of 6 strikeouts and a WHIP of 2.348. Now, normally we wouldn't talk about a pitcher like this, but there's a reason why we are, and it's not because he's performing so bad or so well. He is a great prospect. He was picked with the second overall pick in the first round of the 2021 draft by the Texas Rangers. So there's a lot of draft capital. His stats in college were actually ridiculous. Right before he was drafted, he pitched 110 innings in college, 179 strikeouts. He had a 2.13 ERA. He started 18 games. He looked good in that. In that, even in the minors, he struggled a little bit. Do not get me wrong, but at the same time, he was working on some things and adjusting to big league hitting, and made promotions pretty quickly. He started off right in Double A, then had a whole year in Double A, pitched 92 innings, then got the elevation to Triple A halfway through the year last year, and was in Triple A. Had to adjust again, but still threw up the prolific strikeout numbers to innings pitched. And again, this year was looking absolutely killing it in the minors. Had a 2.84 ERA through 25 innings with 37 strikeouts. And I just don't think that his story is actually written right. Like way I'm looking at Jack Leiter is essentially he is a very good prospect, and the talent just doesn't disappear. It may take a little bit of time for growing. So I'm not saying we go out and add him. He's not the number one guy, but he's the most enticing, highest upside guy out of everybody we're going to talk about. Because if things start to click and go, Leiter could turn it on and be a good pitcher. So how I'm approaching is that if I'm adding him, I'm going to add him with a speculative notion, start him against a good matchup if he pitches out on this good one, this matchup coming up, and kind of just roll from there. But he is somebody you need to add, and you kind of just got to roll from there.
Matt, strong take on Leiter there, and I think we're in the same boat on him. It's a baseball family, though. If you guys aren't familiar with Jack Leiter, you might not know that his dad, Al Leiter, played for many years in the bigs. His uncle, Mark, played for many years in the bigs, and his cousin, Mark Leiter Jr., also, plays in the bigs. So it is a baseball family there with Jack Leiter. The kid's got prospect pedigree, as Matt mentioned, number 2 overall pick in the draft a couple years back. Big fastball on Leiter, good slider, curveball that's around average, change up a little bit under average, but the kid's got, throws a lot of pitches, got good stuff, has the prospect pedigree. I think he's going to be very good in the bigs. I think he just takes time. It just takes time. And I hate to sound cliche if you listen to this podcast a lot, but we've been spoiled with the Tatises, with the Acuñas, with the Sotos, the guys that just come up and get it done. It doesn't always take that path for everybody. And we've seen that plenty of times over the years. I think Jack Leiter, through his first 2 starts, has to shake off a little bit of that. Okay, let me get it out of my system. I'm up here in the big leagues. My whole family's done it. They're expecting big things of him. So sometimes, we get a little bit intimidated. That happens to us all in life, whether it's a new job or something along the lines of that sort. We're doing something we haven't done before. And I think we give Jack Leiter the benefit of the doubt at 8% owned. I truly think, he is starting today as we're talking. The game has not started yet, as Matt and I are recording today. But you know what? If he has a good start, that 8%, going to be 75, 80, right, Matt? I think that flies up. So speculative head now this morning, as you guys are hopefully listening to this early, if he had that big start, get him on your rosters literally ASAP. But let's talk about another good young starting pitcher. Let's talk about Robert Gasser. Robert Gasser is actually somebody that I've had my eye on over the years. Prospect pedigree is there. Very, very good first start. I'm surprised this kid is not more widely owned. He's only 12% owned on Yahoo. As I mentioned, Jack Leiter is only 8% owned on Yahoo. But Gasser, St. Louis Cardinals in his first start, not a great team, but 6 innings, got the win, 4 strikeouts, 0.33 whip in that game, got the quality start. And it's so hard to come by quality starting pitching in today's day and age. And I think Gasser is somebody we really need to look at. As I mentioned, has the prospect pedigree, also 24 years old, same as, Jack Leiter that we just were talking about. And, last year, had a pretty decent year in the minors at 24 years old, AAA. The young Robert Gasser had 25 starts, 3.79 ERA, 135 innings, 166 strikeouts with a 1.27 whip. Kid's really known for striking guys out. The whip might be a little bit high. The ERA might be a little bit inflated. But honestly, through his first start, I actually like that he tempered back on the strikeouts, did his thing, went to 6 innings, looked really good. He gets the Pittsburgh Pirates today as you're speaking. So if you have same day ads, that's awesome for you. If not, unfortunately, maybe you want to do that speculative ad on a guy like this that's very lowly owned and, has a little bit of prospect pedigree and was good in his first start. Robert Gasser, somebody I personally like, 12% owned. You can go out there and take the shot on him.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like Gasser a lot. It's just one of those things where we need to see a little bit more, but we'll see.
I agree.
But yeah, you gave a strong take, so I don't need to repeat anything. Ultimately, how he feels, how I feel. Well, it's one of those things where a little speculative and a little possible potential. All right, and with that being said, on Robert Gasser, I feel we need to move on and talk about Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott is more of a same day ad league. He's pitching tomorrow, today for you guys against Arizona. Not a bad matchup. Corbin Carroll hasn't been hitting the ball out of the park. Nobody really is truly impressing me on that team. That's really saying, "Hey, I'm a serious threat that Andrew Abbott can't really handle." Abbott has been fantastic all season. Has had one bad start at a 6.75 ERA. That was the only one. Everything else has been 3.6, 3.6, 3, 129, 3.6, 3.38. 4K games, 3K games, 7K games, 8K games, 2K games. Is doing fantastic. Plus, he's pitching in Arizona, not at home, which is another bonus, especially with the humidor. So, Andrew Abbott, I feel, has a strong chance to come out here and be good. Honestly, I've rostered him since day one. He's one of my last picks of the draft, and I've had him. He was somebody I was advising the draft all year and has just lived up to the potential and to the prospect pedigree, in my opinion. He may not be blowing their socks off with all the stats in terms of strikeouts and whatnot, but that is going to come as well. Andrew Abbott is a fantastic pitcher. I think there's still more things to come with him. And here we are. He is 42% owned. And honestly, a couple more good starts, and he's going to be 75% owned. So get on it now before it's too late. Andrew Abbott, must add.
And before I hop in here and give my take on Andrew Abbott, and you find out whether I agree or disagree with my brother Matt here, we do have a great ad partner for you guys. And once again, we're talking eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is what also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down that volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for your everyday to bring home the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you that can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And guys, lastly, but something that's the most important to Matt and I, guys, join us on the Subtext platform because we're once again introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this season unfolds, you can rely on us for dynamic content, get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more than we can offer in this 30-minute episode. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where your path to victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball to a new level. And guys, that's a lot, but I'm going to hop back in. I'm going to give you my quick Andrew Abbott take, and then pass things back over to Matt. Abbott was somebody who I actually picked up preemptively last year. The kid was dominating in the minors, was striking everybody out. And I said, you know what? This is somebody that I really want to get my, teeth locked into because he looks really great. Had mixed bag last year. Was really, really good for his first, I want to say 6 or 7 starts. Started to slow down a little bit, adjusted back. And honestly, I actually like to see that Abbott isn't the strikeout monster this year that he was in the past, because I didn't think that was going to continue to work for him. It's really cool to see a kid like this adjust and figure out, hey, this is what's going to work for me in the major leagues, and it might not be striking everybody out. But with the 3.35 ERA through his first 8 starts and 37 strikeouts to 43 innings with a very, very strong whip of a 1.18, I really like what Abbott has done, and I'm in full agreement with Matt. We need to get him from 42% owned to like 75, 80% owned with Andrew Abbott. As Matt mentioned, that next start is, as you're listening, against Arizona. If that really goes well, wouldn't be shocked if this kid really does get up to that level of ownership. So do it now before, that happens. Let's move on to our last starting pitcher of the day. Or, Matt, you know what? My brother, that's a lot of talking for me. I actually might pass this one over to you, Matt. So you know what? Who do we have up next?
We have James Paxton. James Paxton has been valuable, but he's not the James Paxton of his heyday where he's striking everybody out under the sun. He has kind of slowed down on that, and I'll get into that. But right now, he has a good matchup coming up. Cincinnati. They've been so up and down with the CES hurt. Ellie De La Cruz is the really only threatening person in that lineup. Steer has been good as well. But you know what? You get past the top of the lineup, and you pretty much can have smooth sailing through the end of that roster. So James Paxton, I feel, is going to be a good start this weekend. He's pitching on the 17th, which is Thursday, I believe. And I feel that's going to be a great start for him. Ultimately, he's 35% owned and he's out there and available. And going into the weekend, you're going to want a little boost. Now, he may only get you 3 or 4 strikeouts, but he will be able to go 5 or 6 innings. Should suppress them, should be able to get the QS. So help you in points leagues, quality start leagues, all that wonderful stuff. But here's the thing: James Paxton has zero long-term aspirations. So he's more of a pick up and drop kind of guy. You see that he's lost miles per hour on his 4-seam fastball, down 2 miles per hour this year. Lost a mile on his knuckle. His cutter is lost a mile per hour. His changeup has lost a mile per hour, and his sinker has lost another mile per hour. So James Paxton, this is probably his last relevant stretch. I have a feeling eventually this is all going to come up. You go on his baseball savant page and everything's blue. Things are just not looking so great for him right now. even look over at what, like, how often he's given up hard hit rates. It's up there. His Ks are down. It's ugly. He's even walking guys a lot more. So, like, again, even his expected ERA is a 5.92. So again, this is for the matchup. I may have not made you feel so comfortable with the pickup, but ultimately, like, what I'm trying to say is there is no long-term aspirations with him. But for this weekend, I'm willing to roll him out there.
Matt, honestly, great take on Paxton. I don't have too much to add to it because you honestly covered pretty much everything there with him. So I'm just going to keep things pushing. I agree with everything Matt said. So, take that advice, as you will. Let's move on to the hitters. We got a great bunch of hitters here for you. Let's start with, a good one at the top. Let's talk Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman, honestly, as his career has gone on, he's starting to remind me of a Kyle Schwarber, Max Muncy type where there's a lot of power there, not a lot of batting average. Schwarber does steal you some bags, but that's not something that's in Gorman's game. So not really much of a steal threat, but a guy that does have a lot of power. He's starting to pick it up. He's the type of guy that can get hot and just keep it going for stretches. And I think we're going to come into that very soon because over the last 7 days for Gorman, he has 4 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, batting .294. I like to see that batting average getting up there. Means he's making contact, and a guy like this that makes when they're making contact, it usually goes out of the park. Even if you look at his baseball savant, his barrel percentage is very good. He's getting that sweet spot very often, and his walk percentage is looking pretty good too. 17 walks to 47 strikeouts. A guy who might excel a little bit more in points leagues than others. Nolan Gorman, 24 years old. I think we're leaning into a hot stretch, and a guy that plays second and third, a position that we could really use some help at right now. I think Nolan Gorman is somebody we could take a look at.
I love Gorman. Wish he would just figure out batting average. But ultimately, I'm all about it. Great take, Dom. I'm actually going to keep moving and grooving. I'm going to talk Shea Langeliers. Langie's over here. I want to call him real quick, but he has been on a hot streak himself. He has 4 runs, 2 bombs, 8 ribs, batting .350 over this last week. Over the last 2 weeks, he's had 8 runs, 3 bombs, 11 ribs, batting .282. So the thing about Langeliers is essentially he is not a average guy whatsoever, but he has a lot of power. Okay, last year he hit 22 home runs and 448 at bats, which is pretty decent, especially coming out of the catcher position. You'll pretty much just ride him when he's hot and pretty much drop him like he's hot as well when he's not performing. Right now, he already has 9 home runs on the season, and with a bunch coming in this last 2 weeks, I say Langeliers is worth a add right now and get the boost coming out of the catcher position, especially if pretty much painstakingly picked Henry Davis as your guy this year, and it just hasn't panned out. Langeliers should be able to come in and fill that hole. Obviously the stats aren't going to be there either for long term because again, he's on Oakland, but at 35% owned and the production that he's doing right now, definitely worth an add.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on Shea. Right now, I love what I'm seeing. He does come with like a lot of prospect pedigree. I believe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was a top 10 prospect overall at one point. So, comes with the territory when you see him hitting like this. There was even seasons in the minors where he hit 280. I don't think he ever lives up to that, but if he's a catcher that can hit 230, 240, kind of like the Cal Raleigh type with a lot of power, you might be benefiting here with Langeliers, who's 35% owned. That's actually up 8% over the last couple of days here. So Langeliers is definitely somebody that if you need help in the catcher position, you can give him that speculative ad. But before we move on and wrap up today's episode with the last couple of names here, we do have one more great ad partner for you guys.
PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. You can make your selections and submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, why don't I give you some picks for this week? Offer Tyler Glasnow to have higher than 6 strikeouts his next start. Yeah, he's going to do that. Offer Casey Mize to have higher than 5.5 total hits in his next outing. Honestly, the way he's been pitching, that's a fair pick. And offer Kyle Tucker to have higher than .5 doubles in his next game. Kyle Tucker is mashing the ball this year, so I feel like that's an ultimate lock. So download the app today. Use the code Locked On MLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use the code Locked On MLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. All right, and Dom, you're up, bud. Who's up next?
Yeah, let's move on to Jeimer Candelario. And he's an interesting one for me. A phrase that I like to use a lot is juice the orange, and I do have to give credit where it's due. I got that. That's an old Tristan Cockcroft phrase. If you're not familiar with Tristan Cockcroft, he's one of the best fantasy baseball players of all time. Was the host of ESPN, podcast while they were doing that. But yeah, juice the orange here with Candelario. I'm not a firm believer that he's somebody that's going to keep this up. Kind of had like a somewhat of a breakout year last year with the 22 homers and the 8 steals and the 251 batting average. But with Candelario, he's somebody, as I dive deeper, I like less. The underlying stuff for him does not look great this year. Cincinnati's dealing with some injuries. So I think once they get healthy, he's somebody who might, be playing more of a utility role. Does only have 4 homers, no steals so far this year, hitting 220. But you know what? First and third eligibility, juice the orange in the past week, looking a little bit better. So I think you could pick him up and, see where things go, especially when they're playing games at home. He is a great start. If you need a corner infielder in those deeper leagues, I think that's where we're looking at Candelario. As Matt was kind of talking about before with Langoliers, not a buyer that he's going to be doing this all season, but you know what? At 30 years old, kind of juice the orange. If you can, trade him, maximize that value. But Candelario is somebody I'm a firm believer in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't even understand the signing and the amount of money they gave him to come there. So like it just
Yeah.
kind of like muddied up and he muddied up a lot of like players' expectations for this year. And he's not even living up to the hype, but it could be one of those things where it's new year, new season. So all that hype that we're having, and maybe just a year too early. But right now, like like Dom says, we're riding the wave and he's just performing right now and rock him out. And then, you drop him like he's hot when he's not performing. You know, James Paxton shouldn't struggle with him. So it's one of those things. So yeah, that's Candelario for you. Let's move on. Let's talk Jackson Merrill, somebody that's actually been dropped a lot because he was just had a terrible couple weeks, and now is 55% available in leagues. So like now I'm saying, hey, you probably want to add him. He had a nice week last week with 2 runs, a bomb, a rib, 2 stolen bases, batting 357. Even the last 2 weeks, he had 6 runs, 2 bombs, 5 ribs, 2 stolen bases, batting 289. Like Jackson Merrill is performing out there and doing his thing. So like when he's good, he's good. And I think he needed to adjust a little bit since the league has adjusted to him. We're going to be dealing with these ups and downs all season with Merrill. So honestly, he's not somebody I was going out there and 100% dropping if I needed the roster spot because I needed somebody to perform because I was dealing with like so many injuries. Then yeah, I would go out and I wouldn't stand for it. But like if I have an opportunity to hold him, I'm in a good spot and I have a deep bench. I might hold him, and I'm definitely adding him 100% because Merrill is performing. Merrill has upside better than every hitter that we have here. So Jackson Merrill is a must add right now. Yeah. So I guess we'll just move on here, and we'll talk Tyler Soderstrom. Another Oakland Athletic. Soderstrom is actually killing it as well. Big prospect at the time, catcher and first eligibility, and quite honestly, I'm all about it. I'm all about what his upside could be. He has the power. He has just pretty much everything, but he hasn't really played this year. He's only had 16 at bats. But in his what last couple games he's been getting hits. He had a bomb with 2 ribs. He's looking good. And with Soderstrom, we all know what the possible upside can be, right? Like let me pull up his minor league stats here. But Soderstrom, honestly, in the minors was pretty darn good. I gotta say. So like in 2023, he had 306 at bats. He had 49 runs, 17 doubles, 2 triples, 21 bombs, 62 ribs, 2 stolen bases. He batted 252, but like whatever. Like he still had like a OBP of 307, a slug of 526, an OPS of 834. Like this was his last time he was really in the minors and was like had a full stretch in there. Obviously struggled when he came up to the bigs last year when his 125 at bats, but I feel like he's able to adjust this year after finally getting the call up again and should be quite valuable. if he could even live up to like 3/4 of his potential, he's going to be a great catcher for you, especially somebody that you're picking off the waiver wire. If he could bat 250, hit the power numbers and whatnot, like you're going to be very happy. And in points leagues, you're going to be very happy with the doubles and triples. OBP leagues, you should be happy as well because he'll at least get you something when he gets all those extra base hits. So Tyler Soderstrom should be added everywhere.
Matt, great job on Soderstrom there. I think, as you said, kids got power. Had a couple good batting average seasons in the minors. I honestly think once Oakland moves and the Athletics move and they leave Oakland, they really do have some young talent there where they can build a winning team. But that's not something that the team's really focused on at the moment. So, you feel bad for guys like the Langoliers and the Soderstroms and the Rookers, the guys that can really play some baseball that are on these teams. But, I had a little bit technical difficulties there for a minute. I love, Matt, if you can give me a second to move back and talk about Jackson Merrill for a second. I'd love to talk about the young Jackson Merrill. I really wanted to hop in there on him. So at 21 years old, you already love to see, as Matt kind of said, he came out like a house on fire. The league adjusted back to him and he was struggling a little bit, and he has bounced back. His last 2 games, Jackson Merrill, May 13th, 2 for 3 with a homer, and on May 12th, 3 for 4 with a run and 2 steals. That's what this kid does. Honestly, mark my words, this kid's going to be an all-star, like a perennial all-star, somebody that we're drafting, honestly, a couple years from now, like this 3rd, maybe 2nd round. I really think this kid's got power, speed. If you go and look at his baseball savant, which, something Matt and I talk about all the time, basically to break it down, make it easy for you guys, if you go to baseball savant, they have like a little graph there. If you see red, it's good. If you see blue, it's bad. A lot of red for the young Jackson Merrill, and not only in hitting, but in fielding. So guys that can field will always stay out there, especially when they have the prospect pedigree of a young Merrill. So I think Jackson Merrill is a guy, maybe not this year. I mean, but over the next couple of years has 30-30 upside. Maybe we see him go 20-20 this year. And I'm super, super excited about Jackson Merrill. Shortstop and outfield eligibility on Yahoo. It's kind of unbelievable to me that he's only 55% owned. He needs to be 100% universally owned. Every league this kid should be owned in. He has that kind of talent. I understand that, he gets the platoon splits. He doesn't play every single day recently, but before he was struggling, he was playing every single day, and I could see him getting back to that everyday playing time. I'm kind of ranting here, but I do love me some Jackson Merrill. Let's move on to our last guy of the day. Let's talk about Abraham Toro. Abraham Toro, might not the sexiest name out there, but somebody that, has the 2nd and 3rd eligibility. I feel like, Matt, we talked a lot about Oakland Athletics today for a team that's not very good. But Abraham Toro so far, 291 batting average, 21 runs, 4 homers, 17 RBIs, and 2 steals. Guys, juice the orange. We know what to do. I'm not going to explain it all over again, but a guy who was hitting leadoff with middle infield and corner infield eligibility for Toro. How could you go wrong? You really can at the moment. Not a name I'm holding on to for long-term value, but somebody that I'm getting the value in while he's heating up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, well, here's the thing too. Zach Geloff comes back and
There you go.
adds to another layer of what these guys are doing. So if he could bounce back, there should be a lot of ribbies and stuff going around. So and runs. So Toro should benefit. I mean, as long as he's performing and going, he should be on a team. And again, he's a no sweat ad for me. Like FanDuel says, no sweat first bet. It's the same thing here. No sweat first ad because you could just drop him whenever. So honestly, Toro is great, but again, the team and just not really caring all that much. Add him now while he's hot. But guys, I want to say thank you for hanging in there with us. And make sure you go out there, you share our posts, getting that entry to get one of these awesome hats. And promise you, we'll mail it right to your house. You'll be one of 4 people that are ever going to have this, and 2 of those people are Dom and myself. So
Yes.
please go out there, share our stuff, and I promise you'll be getting a hat. All right, with that being said, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, and have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for the Wariometer Thursday, funny enough. So peace.
See ya.